Here's Jay in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. Thank you, sir. You're next. Great to have you with us.
Mr. Rush.
Hey.
I don't mind being put on hold because your commercials are simply outrageous. And kudos to Snerdley, your astute adjutant. You guys have your fingerprint all over that. Anyway, I just want to talk about the NBC and the ABC news stations who are really zeroing in on critical issues like Trump University and funding for veterans and Donald Trump's underwear preference and eyeball socket size, what have you. I realize that they have to scrutinize the highest office in the land, but I think Donald Trump has really thin skin, and he gets sidetracked when these clowns talk about issues that really don't matter. Now, the issues that matter to me are balancing the budget, ISIS, illegal immigrants, and heroin epidemics, stuff like that. And I think Trump should really deflect these people, the media, when they constantly zero in on things that don't really matter.
Well, wait. This is as a recipient of some of this stuff, I have to admit that the subject that you have brought up here is of particular interest to me. And I don't want to offend you here, but I don't know if you've ever been victimized by this kind of malignment, defamation, lies, or what have you. But it's really hard to say, you know what, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stick to the issues.
Now I hear you.
It's really, really hard. And there are many schools of thought, Jay, on how to deal with this. And I have found that there isn't one tried and true way to deal with this. Now, I know how Trump deals with it. I don't think Trump has thin skin. He may. But I don't think that's what you're seeing. I think what you're seeing is a philosophy. Donald Trump has been a public figure for a long time. As such, there have been many things that he considered wrong, damaging, lies, harmful, written and said about him. And at some point, he devised a personal strategy for dealing with it. And we're seeing it in action. Whenever anybody takes a shot, he fires right back at them. He doesn't care what it is. If other people see it as Trump successfully being distracted, which is what I think you're saying. You're thinking these people are going after Trump and his surface stuff that nobody cares about. It doesn't matter. And he's wasting valuable time responding to it. And he ought to still be talking about kicking ISIS all over the map and so forth. But Trump has this philosophy that he's not going to leave it up to the decency and goodness of people to wade through the BS and conclude the media is telling falsehoods. He is going to tell them that's what it is. He's not going to rely on people to figure it out. His strategy is whenever anybody takes a shot, he's going to fire right back at them. It doesn't care. He doesn't care what it is, what it's about. He's going to launch because he's going to shut it down. He's going to do his best to discredit the people making the charge. He's going to do his best to tell people, his supporters, that this is nothing more than an effort to derail him and so forth. He's going to point out that others are not getting this kind of scrutiny. Others are not getting this kind of investigation. And it's exactly what it's about. It depends on the person, the public figure, as to how you want to deal with it. And it depends on the actual substance of the issue. In this case, Trump, you. You know, if there was no fraud and he knows there was no fraud, then he's going to go as far as he has to convince as many people as he can that all this is being made up and lied about and so forth. So I understand the strategy. There's another strategy is ignore it. The more you ignore it, and it'll eventually go away. People forget about it. The problem with that is the people that most famously had that strategy, George W. Bush and Karl Rove, they didn't respond to a single thing. And as a result, the media and the Democrat Party were able to destroy the Bush second term. They were able to destroy the war on terror. They were able to destroy the Iraq war and the purpose for it. Not saying that Bush didn't have a role in it, but the fact that he didn't engage. Hey, I've got a soundbite about this. Let me find this. It's day 2, by the way, of the media reacting to what I said about Trump's press conference, calling the media sleaze. Grab soundbites 4 and 5. This will illustrate my point here to you folks. Well, it illustrate one side of the strategy that I'm talking about. First up is Kimberly Guilfoyle. This on the 5 yesterday. And they are talking about me and my comments that praised Trump, the way he handled his press conference, challenging reporters, calling them dishonest and this kind of thing. And Kimberly Guilfoyle commented on it, played the portion of the audio of me, and then said this.
Trump won praise from Rush Limbaugh for talking tough with reporters. Let's listen to this.
That was a kind of press conference Republican voters have been dying to see for who knows how many years. How many years have people been begging for a Republican to just once take on the media the way Trump did, all the way from the premise to the details, to the motivation? He took them all on. By the way, that's very important. What I said is very important. He tackled their premise. He tackled the details, the substance of their allegations, and explained to people why. He obliterated them on all 3 aspects of what they were doing. Now let's go to Dana Perino. Dana Perino, at the 5, was a White House press spokesman for George W. Bush. She followed Tony Snow. And so Guilfoyle says, so Dana, what is your reaction to all of this?
What Rush was saying is true. There is a desire and a demand for Republicans to take on the press more like that. I've been criticized saying that I didn't do enough to push back against the media and I should have done more and I should have fought more. My answer to that is that that's easy to say. Trump gets away with it because he's skilled at it. He doesn't care what they say about him. And I just felt that as the press secretary to the United States of America, I had a responsibility to answer the questions to the press. They have a job to do. One of the things our country does great is to have our First Amendment, the freedom of the press to ask questions, to hold the government accountable.
Okay, now, that's perfectly fine, but what does it mean? Dana Perino, and I think she's speaking for many in the Bush administration here, is saying that she thought that it was her responsibility to answer the questions the press asked. It was her responsibility. It was, and as such, Dana Perino and the Bush administration, it's almost as though they saw themselves as mere public servants. And the press was this constitutionally comprised group of people that are asking us questions, and we are duty-bound as public servants to answer them. They did not see themselves as gladiators. They did not see themselves as combatants in the blood sport of politics. They saw themselves as public servants, and they thought that that would be applauded and appreciated by the general public, that they were staying above the fray, that they were answering the questions, and they were not combative with the press, and they were not challenging the press. They were being respectful of the press, realizing the press had their job to do. We have our job to do is do our best to answer their questions. The fact that the press was actually trying to destroy George W. Well, I mean, that's part and parcel here, but our job was to answer their questions. Well, Trump doesn't look at it that way. Trump believes in exposing the fraud behind the question or the faulty, phony premise behind the question. Trump believes in exposing the duality of purpose. Believes in exposing, okay, you want to examine my claims? Are you going to examine Hillary's claims? Are you going to ask her these kind of questions? Are you going to, every day you interview my daughter, you ask my daughter about my sex life. Are you going to ever ask Chelsea Clinton about her dad's sex life? Because they never do. But whenever they talk to Ivanka Trump, Trump's daughter, almost every time they ask her about her dad's Playboy past or related matters. But you're not going to get one question of Chelsea Clinton in that regard. So all Trump is saying, I'm not going to be your punching bag. I'm just not going to. That's his strategy. And if you come after me, if you wound me, you're going to pay a price. As I say, there are many different strategies for dealing with this kind of attack. But if it's never happened to you, and I don't, it can be even in your local community. I mean, there are controversial things that happen in small towns and major cities all over the country. If you've been in the middle of one of those, then you're obviously going to have a different perspective of somebody who hasn't. And it's easy for people who have never been defamed, never been lied about, never been challenged, never been attempted to be destroyed. It's easy for people like that to think they know what they would do or what the people under assault should do. But until it happens to you, when it happens, you'll have an entirely different perspective on how to deal with it. Because most people are unable. Most people, Dana Perino said Trump doesn't care. Well, he does, but for different reasons. Most people care desperately what other people think of them. Most people live and die based on what other people think of them. Most people go through life on the verge of being embarrassed every day if somebody learns something about them, and they'll do anything to make sure it doesn't happen. They'll read about gossip on everybody else, and they'll eat it up, and they'll laugh and like it. But boy, if it ever happens to them, then they get so concerned what people think about them. And it's really hard not to. It's really hard not to care what people think about you. And in certain areas of life, you have to have that attitude if you're going to be able to endure it. Now, don't anybody misunderstand. I was not saying Tony Snow was a pushover when he was Bush press. In fact, Tony Snow routinely corrected the premise of some of the. Now, Tony Snow battled him. He was good at that job, and he went after the press in unique ways. He was not a pushover. I was not saying that really about Tony Snow. I don't know. I'm going to get confused about that anyway. But apparently, one person was. So I wanted to set the record straight.